Welcome to Cash Corner, our podcast videocast series where the NeuraFlash crew is here to help your businesses thrive. As a leading Salesforce, DocuSign, and AWS partner, we are dishing out the latest on product, industry, and tech trends that'll have you cutting costs and boosting revenue all at the same time. But this is our first ever episode, and what a better way to kick it off than the raging topic of generative AI. But before we get into that, quick intros to who we have on the call. I'm myself, Casey Lemaire, VP of Marketing here at NeuraFlash, and I am so thankful to be here with Alex and Dane. Alex, why don't you go ahead and give a quick intro to yourself?
Yeah, hey everybody, my name's Alex Hagan. I'm a manager here within the lead to cash space. I've been architecting Sales Cloud and CPQ for a little bit over 4 years and certainly have an affinity to all things innovation. So very excited to cover this ChatGPT, Einstein GPT topic.
Hey there, Dane Peterson. I help run our innovation team here at NeuraFlash, so focusing on time to value as well as implementation speed and ROI on the Salesforce platform. So naturally, very interested in discussing the Einstein GPT topic at hand today.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. And I feel like both of you guys mentioned the key word that I feel like comes through NeuraFlash, which is innovation. Innovation is such a big part of our identity. We're passionate about figuring out new innovative ways to transform businesses with the technology at hand. And what better way to start that conversation is with this viral topic of generative AI, or as what most people are referring to it as, the GPT or Einstein GPT, Chat GPT, etc. Dane, throwing this to you to maybe kick us off, what is Einstein GPT and what's with the hype? Why is it so exciting?
Yeah, I mean, if I go back to right when Chat GPT was released and everyone was scrambling and asking it 100,000 questions and seeing what it kicked back, right? Like, it created this enormous amount of hype around it, right? And then we saw a number of different solutions out there start to integrate, right, ChatGPT. But the biggest thing that I think Salesforce is doing here with Einstein GPT really is bringing that power, but then contextualizing it to Salesforce, right? So you're starting to use the whole platform and all of your data to drive the recommendations, the content generation from the GPT AI side of this, which is Einstein GPT. So it's taking that world of the internet and filtering it down to the data that's most important to you, and it's locked down to you. So it's a really powerful tool. And I mean, as you've probably seen with ChatGPT, right? World's your oyster when it comes to what you can actually use it for and the use cases that you can use it for. So, I feel like every day I'm hearing a new thing that someone used ChatGPT for that's going to come to the platform.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the insane amount of hype around this, right?
Yeah. Like, again, the world's your oyster, right? There's so much opportunity. So it's just a ton of potential. Alex, anything else that you'd like to add to that?
I think Dane pretty much said it. Everything that Salesforce does within the ecosystem is aimed at increasing productivity and removing the need for unnecessary manual intervention. And I think that what they've done here as, one of the first movers in the industry is really try to enhance their Einstein product holistically, right? And so you'll see this Einstein GPT as not only Chat GPT from a generative perspective, but even with some Einstein feeling of next best action or, things of that nature, really, as Dane said, grabbing your data that's contextualized to your company, your instance, and helping your reps be more productive, helping your service reps cater to those use cases in a more efficient way.
No, that's really awesome. I think it's automation. It's going to make everything smarter. I think that's the one thing that Einstein GPT is really going to impact. And maybe just for the listeners and the viewers here, maybe it's worthwhile. ChatGPT, this global term, everybody knows ChatGPT. Everyone is coming up with their own variations of GPT. Dane, maybe quick question for you is, what is the difference between Einstein GPT and ChatGPT? Are there similarities? Are there differences? What were your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you're going to see a lot of the same power coming out of it. And I think we've already kind of mentioned it. The biggest difference and probably the biggest complaint a lot of people have with trying to leverage ChatGPT for business use cases is knowing your own data, right? Knowing the data that your business has generated, whether it be your sales, your cases, your service requests, your work orders, if you're doing something out in the field, whatever it might be, right? We might not know that, right? If you're talking from a chat GPT side, and especially because you probably don't want to necessarily right now send that into chat GPT. But from an Einstein GPT side, you're starting to get all that contextualized information back. Now, the next step to that is where you start to see this being built out, and it's likely to be built out by products as we're seeing right now, right? Where you look at like Sales Cloud or Service Cloud, and starting to build out use cases to leverage Einstein GPT. So you're going to start to see this suite of, I would almost call it like default use cases that you're going to be able to use on the platform with Einstein GPT. So it's not even like, hey, you're given this tool, run wild with it. You're given this tool and here's your template of areas that you might want to leverage, and just kind of turn it on. Now, I do foresee a more flexible scenario in the future where you can start to kind of work with it, modify it as well to get it to generate yourself. But we're seeing kind of a few of those specific use cases right now where, again, in ChatGPT, you wouldn't see that necessarily intertwined with a company or a business database where it can actually give that contextualized action.
Right. So where the data is housed might be the key difference between those two storylines. And what you're sourcing to power the automation, the generative AI, the topics, to make that tool smarter. That's really great. Thanks, Dane. Alex, maybe throws over to you. Like, what are ways that you're seeing the similarities and differences between ChatGPT and Einstein GPT, or maybe, and it's the same?
Yeah, I think that anytime you see something new come out, everybody kind of runs around with their hair on fire and they just try to use it because they feel like they should use it. And I think that that's what you're seeing a lot of. You're seeing a lot of, hey, can I use it to do this? Hey, can I use it to do that? Just throwing mud at the wall and seeing what sticks. And I think that what you're seeing is the similarities within Einstein GPT are some of the similarities that you would see if you just went directly to ChatGPT, right? It's generating human-like responses, with the main differentiator being the data that it's using as the source. It can run analysis of text, meeting recordings, things of that nature. It can automate some of your data entry. I'll talk about a couple of the specifics that I'm seeing within Sales Cloud, but with the main differentiator being what's it using as its source. I think that we'll see encouragement from Salesforce as it becomes more flexible and more fleshed out to be used alongside AI models that maybe a company has developed themselves to help complement the generative AI. And we'll kind of see that with Einstein, along with, I think that they'll open it up and say, hey, you guys are smart. You guys probably built AI models. Let's pair that with Einstein GPT.
No, that's great. And I think when we think about it, you guys both said very similar themes around, right? Everyone, how do I use it? What are the ways I can use it? Use cases for service, use cases for sales. It's really this next wave of, this next innovation of AI and how it's impacting the business section, the business sector. We talked a little bit about use cases in both of your explanations and examples, but maybe Dane, maybe throw this back at you. What are the ways that you're seeing the generative AI, Einstein GPT, and the ways it can add to the business ecosystems or how businesses operate?
Yeah, it's a good question. And again, I won't necessarily go through use cases here because I think we'll hear a new one every day, and then I'll leave it for the experts like Alex to kind of dig into the actual specifics of Sales Cloud and Rev Cloud. But the one thing I would say and call out here is a bit more of, I guess, a warning, or not a warning, a way of thinking about this, right? Alex said throwing mud at the wall, right? See what sticks, right? Yeah, that's one way to try it, right? But even with cutting edge technology, try to let the business process and kind of what you do as a business drive where you start to leverage the technology, right? Don't let the technology necessarily drive how your whole business process is done, right? those two things can coexist. But when you're looking at where can this fit, try to think of how you do business, and then think of those pieces of where maybe summarization can help, where maybe helping generate an email can help, right? Think about it from the business perspective, identify those pain points, identify those areas that are ripe for automation or lend themselves well to kind of the abilities of GPT, and then go forward with those things. Try them out, pilot them. Another thing that I would really call out as you start to look at this, right? And one of the benefits of Einstein GPT is it's going to allow for automation with the power of GPT. Now, as soon as you look at automation, you got to think about who the recipient of that might be, right? If you're automating messages out to your clients, right? You can't guarantee a specific way of speaking, a specific brand being carried in that message, right? So it's really important whenever you're doing something that's external or could have impact on your brand, is to have the processes in place to spot check those or to essentially approve it. So think about that when you're going through this type of innovation brainstorming, is really think about those use cases where it can help you push forward. It can help you expedite maybe the simple or repetitive tasks, help you be creative, but make sure you have those checks in place so that it doesn't have any issues on your brand externally. So yeah, I'd say that's kind of the key areas. Now, I just sounded like a bit of a, doomsdayer, but I think it's just super important as you look at this to start to contextualize how to go about it and how to use it responsibly, and that we don't just continue to throw mud at the wall, and that we're kind of targeted with where we may want to leverage this. But I'm curious, I talked about this kind of from a high level process perspective. I didn't really jump into the meat and potatoes of the use cases. Alex, I know on your side, you've kind of been thinking about this for a long time around what these use cases are. Maybe you could jump into what some of those use cases are for Einstein GPT and sales clouds and sales teams in general.
Absolutely. So whenever I try to think about the application of something new, it always helps me to take a practical approach. So let's say, for example, that I'm a business development representative for a high-tech SaaS company, and it's my responsibility to nurture leads that are coming into Salesforce, whether they come from any external resources, a marketing automation tool, a sales team, et cetera, et cetera. Where I see Einstein GPT alleviating my day-to-day work is a couple of things that you just mentioned, Dane. Automating the information that is being input that maybe I would have to go out and do Google searches to get that information, or I would have to go to an external website. I think that's something that's an area that we could drive efficiency within the lead nurturing cycle. I think that if I am in a position as a BDR to where I'm following up with any of these potential leads, having Einstein GPT be there to help me construct emails. And I think that you hit on one of the really key points around, I call it trust kind of, but like maintaining your brand appearance externally. I don't necessarily know if I see Einstein GPT being a replacement in terms of a communication, but a really, really good starting point, right? So I've seen, or I've thought about use cases where I might ask Einstein GPT to write me an email to a lead that I know that I want to follow up with. And maybe that email is too formal for my liking, or doesn't touch on the casual nature of the phone call that we just had. Those are certainly things and tones that we could iterate through using Einstein GPT. So I think that would be, I think those are some areas that you'll see the product enhance or help within the lead nurturing and really like information gathering stage of a lead. So now if we take it one step downstream, let's act like I'm a sales rep for the same high-tech SaaS company. And let's say that maybe somebody in the company just left. And so I am trying to figure out which way is up with all of these new accounts and contacts and opportunities that I'm now responsible for nurturing and driving sales and all that fun stuff that sales reps do on a daily basis. I think that Einstein GPT can really help me become comfortable with these new accounts, whether that's asking Einstein GPT for a summary of the account, whether that's asking Einstein GPT to create me an article that is a summarization of where that account has recently been, that company's been in the news. Are they planning an expansion anytime soon? Are they going through layoffs? Things of that nature to really expedite the learning cycle, right? Really cut down on any wasted time. Einstein GPT, I think, will be able to help us be more efficient when we're talking about scheduling our next interactions with these accounts, with these contexts. I've seen some information around Einstein GPT being able to not only write the information, but then coupled with the Einstein next best action, say, hey, this article mentioned a contact that you don't have associated with this account already, or hey, this your account's description hasn't been updated in quite some time. Can we keep this information fresh so that we're operating on the best knowledge that we can? Even to the point in which maybe I'm having a conversation back and forth with email and it's just not very efficient. And, we talk about it coming out product by product. Well, Slack is a really easy win for a lot of these Einstein GPT type products where you're coupling generative AI with Einstein's capability. Maybe I need to create a Slack channel between me and this account so that I can converse more easily. Maybe it's external, maybe it's internal. So I think that in terms of Sales Cloud, when you look at some of the practical applications, that's, the tip of the iceberg, but it does give you kind of a practical look into, oh my gosh, there's this new kid on the block. Well, what can we actually do? So I think you'll see it in Marketing Cloud. I think you'll see it in the revenue space. I think you'll see it very early on in the service space, but just, some practical examples within the Sales Cloud environment.
No, I think that was really great. And I think we keep it's automation, right? At the core of what generative AI is and GPT, right? It's helping automate either redundant tasks, easy tasks, or simple tasks. And I think, there's always this fear, right, of automation and AI taking jobs or whatever. I think the human element is so important in these processes. It doesn't remove the need for the human element. Just like what you were talking to, Alex, about tone. Only a human being is going to be able to understand what tone is appropriate for this email based on the relationship that you have. I just think the generative AI is going to make things it's going to make things easier. It's going to make us more efficient with our time, with our resources, with our teams. And I think that's what's really exciting about it. But I always love getting on calls with you guys. I think I learned so much every single time, a new thing every single day. But I thought it was a really great story of illustrating that sales cycle within how generative AI can do. So I guess when we lean on the story, and I think, Dane, you might have mentioned this earlier, we talked about data, and data is the big, access to data. How are we using that data to power things like generative AI? I think there are ways that we need to be aware and cautious about as we kind of, go into this new frontier, this new next generation of AI for business. And so maybe, Dane, I'll throw this to you first. And what do you think businesses need to know to be responsible? Like you had mentioned about like where does it consider fitting? Where does it not fit? What are some of the advice that you might have or feedback that you would have for someone in that position of looking at generative AI and automation?
Yeah, no, it's a good question, and I get to put on the doomsday hat again, I guess, a little bit with no intention. I'm really excited about this, but yeah, I think there's a lot of responsibility on businesses to really understand what's happening with GPT and what some of the impacts are, right? So I know we're talking in the context of Einstein GPT, but I think it's really good to understand this just at a holistic level of what's happening with your data. When you're sending data right now, let's just use ChatGPT, right, as an example, but there's other tools out there as well. ChatGPT, when you send that data, it now knows that data, right? So you have people pushing in, here's my account list, tell me, who I should target, or here's some proprietary code that we're working on. Maybe you can edit it, right? That's, if you look up some news articles, that's happened recently, right? Where IP is being given freely to these GPT tools, right? And so it's very, very, very important that you understand the data security around any tool you're using for this. because that's how they learn, right? They consume information and then they modify their learnings and then they spit that back out for the next question, right? So if it was a little bit of IP that you put in there that was in code that now is going to get passed to another competitor who's asking a question about it, you just have to be careful. So really dig into that from a data security perspective and how is that data going to be used. So that's one of the things that I'm excited about with Einstein GPT is it is quite locked down from a data perspective of what's informing it, where it's learning, and how that information can then be shared. Now, we've talked data. The other side of this, I think, is quite impactful, is the economic impact, right? To say that ChatGPT and GPT technologies won't displace jobs is probably a little unrealistic, right? Now, we've seen other evolutions like this in the past where you adapt, you change, and you adjust. And Casey, you were just mentioning it around, there's not an absence of a person, right? It's just that person is now utilizing another tool to become more efficient in a lot of scenarios, right? Yes, there will still be some displacement in the market, but it's really important to understand how you can enable, uptrain, or train up the folks that may be able to leverage this to become more efficient, right? To become potentially better at their job. And in the short term, it's going to take some work to make sure you're getting the results you want out of this, right? But people are going to get better with that Einstein GPT. They're going to get better with other GPT technologies, and they're going to be able to use that and leverage that really effectively in their job. I know from an innovation perspective, it's made a world of difference for me. Has it displaced my job? No. It's allowed us to accelerate a lot of the things that we've been working on ourselves. But I don't want to downplay the fact that, yes, this could displace jobs. So it's really important as you look at it to understand what kind of impact that makes and make sure you care for the people that are at your company. Now, the last piece, and this one's less doomsday, more fun, is Einstein GPT. As you start to look at it, it's going to understand your org. And I'm really excited about this because it means that at the IT level, it's really important to make an easily understandable org so that Einstein GPT can understand it. So that means you're going to start having to, write descriptions, make sure the labels on the page make sense so that when it gets fed into Einstein GPT, it's going to spit back a result that you want, right? So I'm really excited about that. It's going to kind of marry, and IT is going to start to see a lot of the value in that immediately with making sure that the architecture that they set up for your systems is in a good state.
No, I love that. I think that was such a great way, and even grounding in some of the business outcomes, especially for like IT organizations. There's also a lot of, probably upskilling opportunities as you are onboarding new automations. Like another thing to think about with change management, how are you upskilling if you do have agents or sales reps or someone that are being displaced, how can you reutilize them in a way that's going to make a more impactful push for your company? And I think that's it's the next generation, right? It's going to take a lot of change and experimenting to really figure that out. But I think that was a really great explanation. Alex, I'll throw one more question your way before we start to wrap this up. You talked a little bit, and it's kind of leans on Dane's heels a little bit around, IT and like, what can IT see from this? What do you see as like just general high level outcomes of what maybe sales teams can expect from utilizing generative technology? What is it going to help them do at the end of the day? Like, is it, what are the impact you think like sales ops or chief revenue officers are going to find the most benefit use out of it?
Oh, it's a good question. When I think about Salesforce and Einstein GPT, I actually try to take a step back and think about why companies would even come onto the Salesforce platform agnostic of any type of GPT or Einstein or AI, whatever. And it's efficiency, right? It's a removal of manual intervention. It's a removal of tedious tasks. It's to try to allow in the best way you can for your sales reps to do what they were hired to do, sell. And so I think that what you'll see companies strive for is just that we've gone through an implementation that's going to get us off of Excel driving our leads and accounts and opportunities and maintaining all of this data, and we're on to Salesforce. Great. Step one. Okay. That's the crawl phase. And maybe the jog phase is an enhancement of the environment. Well, GPT could be the sprint phase where you're like, we're operating pretty efficiently and we just want to take it to the next level. And I think that this next level of efficiency in sales and sales ops and service and potentially quoting and revenue motions and things of that nature is how can we continue to let humans be human, right? Mm-hmm. That's really what you want to aim at with this kind of thing is, can we let other things do the tedious things, and can we let humans focus on the connections and focus on the parts of a transaction motion that, being on a Zoom call or a phone call or face-to-face interaction being something that you can't ask a GPT to do. So I think that's what I'm hoping to see, at least from as Einstein GPT kind of progresses in nature.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think we talk a lot, even at NeuraFlash, that automation is a journey, right? It's not a final destination. And sometimes you do have to shore up your foundations in order to get and leverage some of this next generation of automation. And so you made it really, you're going to excel the Sales Cloud. Getting onto the platform, shoring up your basics is a great place to start. But I guess, building on this, Dane, what would you say to people who are, wanting to understand or learn more or implement this into their art? Where should they go?
Yeah, good question. The first thing I would say is, as long as you're not working with data that, again, as we've talked about it, is proprietary or has certain rules where you shouldn't be sharing it, feel free to try out ChatGPT today, right? Go and experiment, right? Experiment again from the processes. Try things out. Try to understand that. Or if you're getting ready for Einstein GPT, a good thing you can start to do right now is understand your business processes, right? Put that business analyst hat on, or get someone to put on that hat, and go through and make sure you understand the pain points with your processes, with your business, and start to document that. And then you can engage a partner, like NeuraFlash. We love to do these kind of innovative concepts, right? Even if it's a kind of small scale testing of it, and see how you can incorporate it into Einstein GPT. And I'll say, usually we put on that business analyst hat and we'll run through and make sure we map that out. But if you have that already, then you're going to be quicker to the bit there of being able to try out these things and experiment with Einstein GPT coming down the pipe really quickly here.
I think that's really great. Alex, anything else you'd add there to people looking to get started?
I think Dane mentioned it earlier. I think that a lot of people, when you do have this new technology come out, they throw mud at the wall, they run around because they feel like they should use it, but they don't really have an understanding of what it is. Start with your process, right? I mean, if you're just going to have AI just to have AI, you're probably not going to derive the value that other companies are deriving from it. I would start, airing the dirty laundry, flipping over the stones, figuring out where you have constant pain points within your system, and then seeing if something like this could be a solution for that gap. So I think, Dane said it well, but I think start with the process and work up from there would be my recommendation.
I love that. It's definitely reassessing your base. Where are you at today and where do you want to be? It's AI with intention. Like there's a lot of intention behind when you want to use AI, especially with this new technology like generative AI. But that's really all we had to cover today. But I think that if I had to summarize the big topics here is generative AI lets humans be humans. It's going to help sales teams be faster, smarter, more efficient. And you have to start somewhere with the AI. And so it's shoring up your foundation. But I guess thank you so much for your guys' time today and sharing your thought leadership. I'm super excited to see where sales and generative AI come into play in Einstein GPT later this year. I'm pretty sure we're going to see some very exciting pilots and stories come to life. And for any of our audience who is listening and is looking to do experiments like what Dane has said, is playing around, and you want a partner to be able to help you do that, just give us a call, send us a message. We are actively doing GPT pilots with customers to help them just understand where are they at in their journey today, where do they want to be, and we're happy to join you on that journey as well. But with that, thank you guys so much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.